In this chapter, you'll understand what is forecasting, how it is done to make that match between the demand and supply, the basic principles underlying sales and operations planning process. So for all operations planning, what is important is to understand demand. Unless the demand is understood, the operation planning cannot be done. And finally, what are the key steps in order fulfillment process? So once you understand demand, you make your production. How do you fulfill those orders? What are the different channels, and what is the structure of those channels by which the order is being fulfilled? Now, these are the main focus items for this chapter: demand management, forecasting, sales and operation planning, collaborative forecasting approach, fulfillment approach, and processes and methods. Now, demand management we have understood. Forecasting is more like a mathematical technique or statistical technique by which we can predict what the demand would be in the future. Sales and operation planning process. This is the interaction between sales and operations, because sales generate the demand and based on it the production planning is done. So these two operations are intertwined. Collaborative forecasting approach is a technique where different players in the supply chain, like the vendors, the supply chain managers, the transportation agents, or the carriers, the trucking companies, they're all brought together for a collaborative approach in forecasting. So this is basically a 360-degree view of the customer's demand. And finally, the fulfillment process and the processes and methods. What are the ways the customer's demands are fulfilled? So these are some of the major focus areas for this chapter. Demand management, that is the ability of firms throughout the supply chain to collaborate on activities related to the flow of products, service, information, and capital. So it is not only product, but it is the flow of service, information, and capital as well. What are the problems of reaching this flow? The coordination between different departments. Each department might work as a silo so that the information may not flow smoothly. Between the sales and the production, if there is no information flow, the production will not know exactly when to produce or exactly what is the demand. Too much emphasis on forecasting of demand. So if you make complicated mathematical models, statistical models for forecasting, that may not be enough to fulfill the demand, because the forecasting has to be timely. It has to reach the production planning team who will make the planning of the production accordingly. So both has to work synchronously, the forecasting and production. Demand information is used more for tactical and operational than for strategic purpose. So that is again a problem in achieving the goal. So it should be more strategic. Demand information should be more strategic. It is a long-term goal, and the planning has to be done so that all future demands are met by the organization. Now, how demand management support business strategy. So these are the different ways that the demand management actually helps strategies, like the growth strategy, the portfolio strategy, the positioning strategy, and the investment strategy. The growth strategy says that a company can acquire another company when they can understand the actual demand. So based on that demand, they will go and they will probably buy another company. Portfolio strategy is based on the demand forecast, they will understand exactly where to place the product, or what type of portfolio of activities they should have. So some are cash cows, and some are new products, and some are emerging products, and so on. The positioning strategy talks about where they should exactly position the product based on the demand. And the investment strategies will, based on the demand forecast, they will speculate where they should do the capital investment so that they can capture the demand and can get the most out of that market. Now, direct to customer fulfillment. So this figure basically shows different ways in which a producer can reach customers. So they can sell it through the conventional channel, that is through the retailers and distributors in between. They can ship things directly to the customers. They can have a mixture of these strategies. So it can be partly through the conventional channel and partly through online channel. Now, the next few slides will talk in details about different strategies in which the producers can send their goods to the customers. So let us take a look at each of those. The integrated fulfillment strategy. In this strategy, there is a brick and mortar and a click and mortar presence. What is actually meant by that is a retailer can maintain a brick and mortar store where you can actually go and buy the product. At the same time, you can order things online and things would be shipped to the customer from the retailer's distribution center. So what is the advantage and disadvantage? The advantage is it is low cost because they're using the existing retailer's distribution center. What is the disadvantage? The order fulfillment will change with addition of internet order. So that retail distribution center is carrying both retail store order, which is going via truck to the retail store, and case, which is used for moving those goods or transporting goods from the retail center to the customer. So that adds up to the complexity. So there is a problem of each item versus case item versus truck item. So you should understand this. And if I move to the figure which talks about this, let me move to the next slide. So in this slide, this integrated fulfillment, in this slide we see that the truck is used for picking goods from the retail distribution center and sending it to the retail store. From the retail store, consumers can buy things in each units. The consumers also have the option of ordering items online, and it would be shipped in cases from the retailer's distribution center. So customers have got more options, but it is less expensive because the same existing channel is being used. That retailer's distribution center is used for both brick and mortar and for online or click and mortar presence, but it adds to their complexity. Dedicated fulfillment. Now this is the second strategy of reaching out to customers. So unlike the first uh, option, where we have seen that in the integrated fulfillment, there was a single retail distribution center from which the retail stores and the customers were supplied goods uh, either by truck or in cases. But in dedicated fulfillment, there is a dedicated retail distribution center to handle customers' online order. The advantage is it has a separate, because it's separate, so there is the confusion of handling both retail store order and individual customers order in the distribution centers is not there. Okay, so that's an advantage. But the disadvantage is there is duplication of facility, there is two distribution centers, and duplication of inventory. You got to have inventory in both locations, so that is a disadvantage. Now you understand nothing is foolproof, so based on your requirement you have to plan uh, the outbound shipment to customer. Different companies, based on their strategies, based on their business strategies, they determine which is their best option. So this figure talks about that dedicated fulfillment which we have just discussed. So we see that from the manufacturing distribution center, goods are moved by truck to retail distribution centers. Now there are two retail distribution centers. One is dedicated for retail stores, the other is dedicated for direct customer shipment. So the retailers sell their goods directly to the customer to in individual units. Similarly, the retail distribution centers can pick up goods and put those in cases and ship it to consumers. Outsourced fulfillment. So this is very similar to the one we have discussed so far. Uh, it's very much like the dedicated fulfillment. The only difference is the second retail distribution center is not owned by the company. It is owned by an outsourced distribution company. Again, this is an example of 3PL, because the logistics service of distributionship is being handled by somebody else. So advantage is low cost because you don't have to invest in that distribution center. Possible transportation economy, because it can be located at a very convenient location based on the customer demand. But the advantage is loss of control over service level. You really don't know how efficiently that outsourced distribution center is functioning. So customer may be ordering things online, but that outsourced distribution center may not handle that efficiently. And because of that inefficiency, the goodwill of the company will be tarnished. So that has to be kept in mind. There is a cost saving, but there is a cost for that. That is a sacrifice of control and sacrifice or possible loss of goodwill. So this slide talks about that outsourced fulfillment. We see that there are two channels. The one on the top, that's the traditional channel from the manufacturers to retailers to retail stores and finally to consumers. The lower channel is through that outsourced distribution center, and that outsourced advantage is that outsourced distribution center, as because it is maybe rented out from a third party, it can be located very close to the consumers. So there is a added transportation cost advantage. So the company doesn't have to build their own distribution center. Whenever there is a demand, they can get it from somebody else. But again, as we discussed, there is a loss of control and chances of loss of goodwill. drop shipped fulfillment. So this is mostly done for perishable goods. Say a milk producer, he can supply milk to retail stores directly using his own vehicle. So consumers can come to the retail store and buy in each units. So the advantage is reduction of inventory in the distribution network. The distribution network is not holding inventory. Goods are moving directly from the manufacturer's retail stores. So this happens with many stores for many fast moving goods, which have a short shelf life, like maybe milk, maybe some cookies, maybe some bread, which consumers want fresh. It can be stored maybe maximum a day or two. So this drop shipment is used, but the manufacturer uses own transportation network to supply the retail stores with his goods. So the advantage is reduction of inventory in the distribution network. Vendor has direct control. The manufacturers directly have control over the distribution. But for the retailer, it is possible reduction of inventory visibility. He doesn't have goods in his distribution network, so he may not know exactly when the trucks are going to come. It is at the whim of the manufacturer. Now, if you take a look at this figure, this talks about the drop shipment. We see that over here, instead of the retailer's warehouse or distribution center, there is the manufacturer's regional warehouse. So manufacturer ship his goods to his regional warehouse, from where goods are moved in cases in less than truckload. Again, each retail store doesn't order full truckload. They may order, say, 10 case, 5 case, whatever. So those are put into a truck. The trucks circulate. So they go from store 1, store A to store B to store C and deliver those boxes. And they return to the manufacturer's regional warehouse. And finally, the consumers can come to any of the store and pick his individual item. So the advantage is the retailer doesn't have to invest in that warehouse. It is convenient for the consumers. He can get those fast moving goods or goods with short shelf life. They get it really fresh. But the problem is retailer doesn't have control over the distribution network. Now we'll look into store fulfillment. In this option, the customers can order both from the retail store and online. Goods are shipped from the retail distribution center to the retail store, from where the customers can pick his individual item or the box which he has ordered online. Now that symbol box is mostly, which you will see in your text, is meant for online order. Now there are some advantages, some disadvantages. Short lead time to the customer. He can order online, but he can pick up goods directly from the store. Low startup cost for the retailer because he uses the same network for both brick and mortar and click and mortar. Return can be handled through the store. If you don't like your online order, you can take it to the store. Now the disadvantage is, in one single store, in that retail store, goods are being, you have two types of order. One order which is customer's physical order, when a customer walks in the store and he orders the item. The other is what he has ordered online. So if there is order online, immediately that goods are to be reduced from the inventory. So though the goods are available in store, it's already sold. So that's a problem. If a customer comes and wants to buy a laptop, which is being displayed, but internally that particular laptop is already sold to one customer. So these are some of the problems of this store fulfillment. Now this is a figure showing that store fulfillment, you have a retail store from where the individual units or boxes can be sent to the customer, or customers can go to the retail store and pick that up. But the problem with the retail store is they're handling two type of orders, which makes it little complicated. In this second option, flow-through fulfillment, this is very similar to store fulfillment. Customers can order both in store and online. The only difference is the picking is done at the retail distribution center level. So when you order online, things are packed at the retail distribution center. So that package would be sent to the retail store. So they will know exactly what is an online order. So because that is kept separate, that is already packed in for that customer, he can come and pick it up, but that doesn't mix with other inventory. So that is the advantage. The disadvantage is storage space at the store for pickup. So though it is separate, though that package which is to be picked up by a customer who has ordered online is separated, but still it takes up some space at the retail store. So that is a disadvantage. But otherwise, this is probably a better option, flow-through fulfillment. So this is a figure which talks about flow-through fulfillment. The picking is done at the retail distribution level for the retail store and also for the online order. But they are not shipped directly to the customer. It goes to the retail store from where the customer can come and pick up the item. So these are some of the different options for reaching out to customer. Now our chapter ends there. We have looked into different options, how the outbound to customer logistics can be configured. So each configuration has got the advantage, has got the disadvantages. Now based on the company's policy, based on the customer demand, different configurations of this outbound shipment can be undertaken by a company. Now it should be understood that if a company adopts one strategy, it may not be right away possible to change over to some other option. So they have to stay with it for some time, understand their own advantages and disadvantages, and then he can decide whether to continue or to change over to a different option. Thank you.